Inside the secret life of Saddam's son, a reign of cruelty beyond imagination. He was born into unimaginable power, the golden son of a dictator, surrounded by luxury, protected by fear. But behind the walls of Baghdad's palaces, Uday Hussein, the eldest son of Saddam, built a world that even his father would come to fear. He was not a soldier or a leader. He was something far darker. With unlimited privilege and absolute impunity, Uday turned Iraq into his personal playground of cruelty, leaving behind a trail of pain that scarred countless lives. The stories whispered through the streets of Baghdad were almost too horrific to believe, until the day the regime fell, and the truth was finally revealed. Tonight, we uncover the chilling story of the man once called the Prince of Pain. If you believe stories like this must never be forgotten, make sure to subscribe for more real-life prison documentaries that reveal the darkest corners of power. Uday was born on June 18, 1964, in Baghdad. From the moment he could walk, he was treated not as a child, but as royalty. His father's name was enough to silence anyone who dared to question his behavior. Teachers, servants, and even military officers learned quickly. Crossing Uday meant inviting disaster. His education at the elite Baghdad College High School exposed how early his violent streak began. Classmates later recalled that he would strike staff for minor mistakes, order servants to kneel, and brandish pistols as toys. While others studied science and literature, Uday studied power, and he learned its first rule: fear lasts longer than respect. By his teenage years, Iraq was at war with Iran, and while thousands of young men were dying on the front lines, Uday was attending lavish parties inside marble halls. He was surrounded by imported alcohol, foreign music, and bodyguards who obeyed without question. The war may have been raging, but inside Saddam's circle, the real battles were fought in whispers, between privilege and survival. Uday's power grew rapidly. At just 21, he began attending government meetings and traveling with official delegations, acting like a prince of the state. Iraq's ministers learned to smile when he entered, laugh when he laughed, and never meet his eyes for too long. But it was in the mid-1980s that Uday's true darkness emerged. Using his father's secret police, the Mukhabarat, he began ordering agents to identify young women across Baghdad. The instructions were simple: find her, bring her, say nothing. The pretexts were carefully crafted. Some girls were told they had won academic awards or been chosen for national service. Others were taken under the illusion of a job interview or a television audition. Once they entered the black Mercedes waiting at their door, they vanished. Many of these young women were delivered to Uday's mansion in Mansour, a heavily guarded palace filled with gold, mirrors, and locked rooms. Security guards who later defected described how entire hallways were soundproofed. The windows were tinted, and the rooms equipped with hidden cameras. The victims were threatened, not just with their own deaths, but with harm to their families. One wrong word, one scream, and entire households could disappear overnight. By 1985, Uday had been appointed head of the Iraqi Olympic Committee and the Football Association. To the world, he was the face of national sports. To Iraq's athletes, he was a nightmare. He used these positions to control, punish, and destroy lives. Players who missed goals were beaten, coaches who protested were jailed, and female athletes, swimmers, gymnasts, runners were summoned for performance reviews that became something much darker. Those who refused never competed again. Those who did often disappeared. Uday's abuse of power didn't stop there. He expanded his reach into Iraqi state television, selecting female presenters, singers, and actresses as if they were property. Families that resisted faced arrest, while others stayed silent, hoping that obedience would buy safety. It never did. One young TV presenter vanished after being called to the Ministry of Information. Her family was told she had resigned. They never saw her again. The moment that revealed Uday's uncontrollable rage came in 1988 during a party attended by diplomats, generals, and Ba'ath Party elites. In front of hundreds, Uday brutally beat Kamel Hanagigio, a trusted aide of his father, with a gold-handled cane. The man died on the floor while guests stood frozen in shock. That single act exposed the truth. Uday feared no one, not even Saddam himself. For a short time, Saddam exiled him to Switzerland, but he returned home unchanged, angrier than ever. In the 1990s, Iraq's suffering deepened with war and sanctions. and Uday used the chaos to tighten his grip. His black Mercedes convoys became a symbol of terror in Baghdad. They cruised through schools, weddings, and public markets. People would fall silent at the sound of his engines. Mothers pulled daughters indoors. Families canceled celebrations. Uday's men would storm into events, point to a woman and say, "She comes with us." Refusal meant death. There were whispers about what happened inside his villas. Survivors who managed to flee Iraq later told stories that froze the blood, of beatings, humiliation, and the systematic use of violence to destroy women's spirits. He turned the state's prisons into extensions of his cruelty. Women arrested under fabricated charges were sent to secret cells, including female-only wings of Abu Ghraib prison. Some stayed there for weeks, others for years. Few ever spoke again. Those who returned were marked by silence and shame. By 1993, Uday had created his own newspaper and television network, Babel. He called it a symbol of progress, but in truth, it was another hunting ground. Singers, models, and presenters were invited to meetings with promises of fame. Instead, many were sent to his private compounds. Refusing an invitation from Uday Hussein was not an act of courage, it was an act of suicide. As the decade drew on, Uday's cruelty deepened. He even weaponized education. Schools were ordered to report promising female students to government offices under the guise of youth programs. Many of those girls, aged just 14 or 15, were picked up in government cars and never seen again. Some families tried to escape Iraq altogether, but even across borders, the Hussein name carried fear. Then, in 1996, karma struck. Driving through Baghdad's Mansour district, Uday's convoy was ambushed. Bullets tore through his car, hitting his spine and legs. He survived, but the attack left him permanently disabled. Yet the injury didn't humble him. It made him crueler. Now confined to a cane and partial paralysis, he directed his operations from a wheelchair, sending others to carry out his violence. His villas grew quieter, but the terror they inspired did not fade. When the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq began in 2003, Uday tried to flee. He moved between safe houses, surrounded by loyal guards, still believing he was untouchable. But his reign was ending. On July 22, 2003, U.S. Special Forces surrounded a villa in Mosul where Uday and his brother Qusay were hiding. After a fierce 4-hour firefight, the walls collapsed under rockets and gunfire. When the dust cleared, Uday Hussein, once the most feared man in Iraq, lay dead. The news spread like wildfire. Crowds gathered around televisions, staring at the lifeless face of the man who had haunted their dreams for decades. For many Iraqi women, it was not a moment of celebration, but of release. The end of a nightmare that had stolen daughters, sisters, and friends. As we close this story, remember those who never had a voice, the women whose names were erased, the families who were silenced, and the nation that endured their pain. Their courage is the light that outlived his darkness. If you believe their stories must never be forgotten, make sure to subscribe for more true prison documentaries that reveal the hidden truths history tried to bury.